Hello, my name is Tony Guzman and I serve as the Director of Online Programs for the School of Social Work at the University at Buffalo. Welcome to this online education preparedness presentation. This presentation examines the differences between online and seated classes. It is intended for anyone who is interested in enrolling in one of our online degree programs or who has enrolled for the first time in an online course and wants to be well prepared. It should take approximately 20 minutes to view this presentation. The presentation consists of 4 topics and is meant to answer some common questions and misconceptions you may have. For example, you may have never enrolled in an online course and want to know how they are different. We also know that many people work full-time and want to know how to balance school and the rest of their life. There is a common misconception that online courses are less time-intensive because you don't have to come to campus. We will discuss what kind of time commitment is expected. Lastly, we want you to be successful and will provide you some tips to ensure your online learning experience is a good one. Let's get started right away and look at how online classes differ from the seated courses you're used to. The majority of you may be familiar with the scene on the right. When people think of seated courses, the model of a lecture hall comes to mind. The class meets at the scheduled time and location a few times a week. The professor is usually lecturing at the front of the classroom while students are listening and taking notes. While this method has been around for a long time, it is a very passive way of learning. Most students are not taking an active role in the class. You may even know a few people who are what we like to call back row students, or students who come to class, sit in the back of the room, and nod off or fall asleep. Chances are they are not learning very much when they do this. In contrast, online courses require you to be an active learner. Every week you will be asked to be involved in your own learning. You need to be engaged and do something with the information you are given. Not only will you learn from your professor, you'll also learn from your fellow students through group activities and discussions. In terms of course meeting times, the majority of your online courses will allow you to participate in sessions at your own convenience. There may be instances when you will all meet at the same time, that is synchronously, using video conference technology. If this is the case, you'll be notified by your professor beforehand. This does not mean the other parts of your online courses are self-paced. You will still need to follow a weekly schedule. We will talk about that in the next section. Before we go any further, let's try to clarify a common misconception about the technology required to complete any online class. A common question people ask is, do I need to purchase a brand new computer to take an online course? A brand new computer is not needed to enroll in an online course. Generally, a computer that is less than 3 years old will suffice. You need to have access to high-speed internet. As well, make sure you have a microphone, headset, speakers, and a webcam for some portions of your online course or program. While a tablet or other mobile device may allow you to connect into the course and view portions of your online class, it will not be sufficient to complete all of your assignments and/or assessments inside the course. So make sure you have access to a computer with high-speed internet access. Let's now look at how you will communicate with your professors. As you know, in a seated course, if you have a question, you can simply raise your hand or talk to the professor after class. In an online class, communication is not that instantaneous most of the time. If you have a question for your professor, you can send an email message, but it may take up to a day or more for your professor to respond. Most online professors also teach seated class sections and may not be able to answer to your question right away. It's a good idea to give them 24 to 48 hours to respond to your email. The bulk of the online course materials will be delivered through web pages. Consequently, you'll be doing a lot of reading and writing when enrolled in an online course. The image here in the center of the screen is an example of a course announcement. You will have announcements, discussion boards, files, and folders to open and download within your course. In particular, discussion boards allow the whole class to take and talk about a central question, prompt, or idea. For example, the professor might post a case study and ask the whole class to answer questions about it. This is one of the reasons we say online classes don't have back row students. In a seated class, only one or two students might answer the instructor's questions in a class session. In an online course, every student has a voice and needs to express her or his opinion. These whole class discussions expose you to multiple perspectives and allow you to learn from your peers as well as your professor. Online courses don't limit themselves to only text-based materials. Your professors may also post short lecture-like materials in which they or others talk over lecture notes, like I am doing in this presentation. Or they might make themselves available during posted virtual office hours, or you might even be asked to watch a video demonstration or recording. These can occur across various video conference technology tools like Blackboard Collaborate, Adobe Connect, YouTube, Google+, Skype, etc. Here's another question to check your understanding. Based on what you've just learned, will it be important for you to read and follow directions carefully? I hope that since you've realized that communications are primarily text-based, you must be able to read and follow directions carefully. If you don't understand something, it's a good idea to go back and reread the instructions, since you may have missed something the first time. Now that you understand how to communicate with your professor, you may be asking yourself, how do I get access to my course materials? At UB, we use a learning management system called UB Learns to teach all our online classes. Each student is given a unique university-issued username and password to log into UB Learns learning management system. You're given access to a separate course website for each online or hybrid course in which you are enrolled. Before we go any further, let's ask ourselves a common question. Are online courses easier than seated courses? As a matter of fact, online courses are not easier. They may require more of a time commitment. As we discussed earlier, online learning requires you to be an active learner. Active learning takes some time, and having good time management skills are extremely important if you want to be a successful online student. For this section, we will look at time management skills and why they are important when enrolled in an online program or course. To start off, let's define what time management is. Simply put, it's managing your time in an efficient way. It's organizing and prioritizing the tasks that need to be completed within a given time frame. So why are time management skills so important when taking an online course or completing an online degree program? Before we get to that question, why don't we answer another question first? Why are you interested in online learning? Let's look at some potential answers to this question. I live too far from UB, so commuting presents a challenge to me. Even though you will save time by not coming to campus, you still have to properly manage your time. By developing good time management skills, you are more likely to succeed. I work full-time and can't make it to campus when the course is offered. Having the freedom to take classes around your work schedule is why many students like you choose to enroll in an online course or program. If you're working full-time, chances are you already have limited free time. So only by developing really good time management skills will you be able to succeed. I have a hectic work-life schedule and can't commit to a set class. If your schedule is hectic to begin with, adding an online course may make your life even messier. Sorry to tell you. But if you can develop good time management skills, you will be more likely to succeed. So what is the common theme in these answers? Good time management skills. So here are 5 basic time management tips to help you succeed. First, be organized. Make a schedule. Second, break up the tasks. Do a little bit each day. Third, be prepared for the unexpected. Fourth, don't wait to the last minute. And finally, have a support structure. We'll now look at these 5 tips in closer detail. Be organized. We suggest planning out your schedule at the beginning of each week. You know when you have to work, when you have to take the kids to soccer practice, etc. Be sure to write down all of these activities. Once all those commitments are in your planner, you should be able to find time for your online course. Even blocking out an hour or two a day will go a long way towards getting your coursework done. The second tip follows the first one. Break up your coursework throughout the week. Don't try to get it done all at once. On the right, you will see an example of a weekly schedule. If you follow a similar approach, you will notice how quickly you get into a routine and will find that making time for your course becomes much easier. Even the best thought out plans can come apart if something unexpected happens. Your child might be sick, or the boss might ask you to work overtime. You can't plan for everything. So it's important that you leave room in your schedule for the unexpected. The fourth tip may be the most important one of all. Don't wait till the last minute. If your assignment is due at midnight and you waited until 11 that night to start, don't expect your professor to be available online to answer a question at 11:30 that night. As mentioned earlier, you should give your professor at least 24 to 48 hours to respond to email questions. If you wait till the last minute, chances are you will not get the help you need and you won't succeed in that assignment. The last tip we have is to make use of your support structure at home. If available, you might ask your significant other or children to help with some of the tasks you normally do. This will free up time to work on your assignments in your course. So now let's go back to our question. Why are time management skills so important when taking an online course or completing an online program? Because it will help you succeed as an online learner. In this next section, we will look at the kind of time commitment you can expect as an online graduate student. We will start to answer that by looking at another question. How often do you think you will need to log into your online course each week? Best practices indicate that you will need to log into your online course and engage within that course at least 4 times a week. This will ensure you're receiving timely information from your professor and actively engaged with your fellow classmates. We suggest you log in at least 4 times a week because this will help you to keep engaged in the class. This is important because unlike classroom lectures and discussions, which are concentrated in 1 or 2 sessions each week, online courses spread those interactions between you, your classmates, and your professor over the entire week. If you think about it, you have to make up for the time you would be spending in a classroom, and because these communications must be written and read, they can actually be more time consuming. The traditional credit formula model in higher education is 2 additional hours of student work for every hour in the class. For a 3 credit hour course, that's 3 hours of classroom lectures and discussion, plus 6 hours of additional work every week. That adds up to a total of 9 hours of work per week. This table shows how those 9 hours of work might be broken up in a typical online course. As we mentioned before, it's a good idea to break up your weekly task into smaller pieces. You can see from this example, an hour to 2 hours per day is all you should need. Some online classes might require you to participate in online group project activities. If you find yourself in an online group, it's important to remember that not everyone is going to log in at the same time. One student might find it more convenient to do the work at 5 p.m. immediately after she gets home from work. Another student may have more time after 9 p.m. because that is when his children are asleep and he has some quiet time. It's important to keep these issues in the back of your mind, or better yet, to make them part of your group's project planning when dividing up the work. In this section, we will look at some study tips to help you be a successful online student. Online students tend to perform better when they are reflective about their learning. Some people like to refer to this as thinking about your thinking. We'll expand on this idea over the next few slides. First, let's discuss and read a quote from the American Psychological Association. Successful learners can reflect on how they think and learn, set reasonable learning or performance goals, select potentially appropriate learning strategies or methods, and monitor their progress toward these goals. In addition, successful learners know what to do if a problem occurs or if they are not making sufficient or timely progress toward a goal. They can generate alternative methods to reach their goal or reassess the appropriateness and utility of the goal. The first step successful learners must take is to assess the task. What does it take to complete? Next, you need to evaluate your strengths and weaknesses. You need to evaluate your own skills and knowledge in relation to the task you are presented with. Once you've evaluated your skill level, you need to make a plan. Take into account your assessment of the task and your evaluation of your own strengths and weaknesses in order to devise an appropriate plan that takes advantage of your strengths and compensates for your weaknesses. How are you going to accomplish your goal? Once your plan is set, you need to apply or carry out your strategy and monitor your performance. You should be continually monitoring your progress as you are working on the task and comparing where you are now relative to the goal you want to achieve. Lastly, reflect and adjust your plan if needed. Look back on what worked and what didn't work so that you can adjust your approach next time and, if needed, start the cycle again. In this final section of the presentation, we're going to consider some useful online classroom rules of ethical behavior. Do you think online courses have different classroom rules which need to be followed? Well, for many people, participating in an online course is something new to them. You've probably taken many seated courses in the past and are used to the structure and cultural norms associated with them. Just like seated courses, online courses have their own set of rules which need to be followed. We like to call this online etiquette or netiquette. Actually, classroom rules are the same regardless of location. Remember, just because you're interacting online doesn't mean you can stop showing respect for your professors and for your fellow classmates. You're communicating with real people, not with a computer screen. It's also important to remember who you are communicating with. When sending a message to a professor, please refrain from using text, lingo, or language. Also, stay away from typing in all capital letters. It will appear as if you're shouting. Speaking of shouting, just as you would in a polite, personal conversation, you need to avoid strong language in online courses. This kind of language can easily be misinterpreted in an online setting. Also, sarcasm does not translate well. Your audience can't see your facial expressions or body language. Always strive to be as straightforward and professional as possible. Be sure to carefully and thoroughly read all the assigned readings before beginning your other online class assignments. If you need clarification, reread the materials. You may have missed something the first time. Then, if you're still having difficulties, you can email your professor. The last rule is to carefully review and edit everything you prepare before submitting your assignments. When responding to discussion board posts, be sure to read all previous postings before writing your own. You should also get into the habit of saving your work using a word processing program or other application. This way, you will have a backup copy in case something goes wrong. As we get ready to conclude our presentation, I would like to take this moment to give some advice regards to your social media footprint. You may already have social network accounts set up. but I encourage you to start to reflect on how you are perceived online in social media outlets. What email account username do you use? Make sure it is a professional-looking email address. Also, monitor your privacy settings on these social networks to avoid having your accounts compromised. Always act professionally and make sure that your status updates, comments, tweets, and most importantly, photos portray you in a positive light. Many employers and colleagues will do an internet search on you, and your social media footprint might give the wrong impression if you do not act professionally online. This concludes the online education preparedness presentation. So let's review what we've covered. You now know that online courses require you to be an active learner, which will keep you engaged with the material each week. You can balance school and the rest of your life by using effective time management techniques. You should be logging into and engaging within the online course at least 4 times a week to stay connected to the class. You will need to take control of your learning. Make a plan and follow through with it. Lastly, you will need to pay attention to some basic rules of online classroom etiquette. Thank you for participating in this online education preparedness presentation. Please visit our website www.socialwork.buffalo.edu/online for more information.